Hello, Texans. Welcome back to this week's episode of Texan Sports Minute. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the Texan football team's fourth quarter heartbreaker against rival Midwestern State. The Texan volleyball team ended their last home game of the season on a good note. The Texan basketball team ended exhibition play in Austin last weekend. The Texan basketball team blew past their opponent in their only exhibition game of the season. And both Tarleton cross-country teams competed for the last time this season at the regional meet in Denver, Colorado. The Texan football team lost a heartbreaker to school rival Midwestern State. The Mustangs came into Saturday's contest ranked 12th in all Division II, but the Texans looked poised to pull off the upset for most of the game. Although the Mustangs were the first to get on the board with a field goal on their opening possession, it would be all Texans for the rest of the half. The offense had a big response to the Mustangs score. Derek Kaiser would connect with Joseph Sadler on a 46-yard touchdown pass just a few minutes later to put the Texans up 7-3 early in the first. It would be the defense, however, that would really shine in the first half. Chase Venardo would sack the Mustang QB on a 4th and long to give the offense the ball, and Dominique Martin would have 2 interceptions for the Texans. One of these picks would set up the offense to record the only score in the second quarter, a field goal that would put them up 10-3 going into the half. Unfortunately for the Texans, the roles would be reversed as the Mustangs would go on to control almost all of the second half. While the Texans remained scoreless in the third, the Mustangs would find the end zone twice. Special teams would come up big, however, as one extra point was blocked. And when they tried to go for 2 on the next touchdown, it was stopped by the defense to bring the score to 15-10 at the end of the third. The two teams would battle out in the fourth. And with 5 minutes left in the quarter, the Texans were given a golden opportunity to score after they recovered a fumble made by the Mustangs quarterback. And they would not disappoint. Zed Warner, who came in earlier for the injured Derek Kaiser, would connect with Del Michael high in the end zone. The failed 2-point conversion would put the Texans up by 1. It looked all over for the Mustangs. They only had 2 minutes and 8 seconds to score, but unfortunately they only need about a minute of that, as the Mustangs would bust a 13-yard run for a touchdown to give them the lead. With only 52 seconds left, the Tarleton offense would stall out and the Mustangs would ice the game. The Texans will travel to A&M Commerce to close out the season on Saturday. Now on to volleyball. The Texans would finish the last home game of the season in ruthless fashion. The Texans would show no mercy in their sweep of Cameron on senior night. In their 4th straight win, the first set would be straight dominated by the Texans. They were up by as much as 19 in the set before senior Abby Mackey kill ended at 25-11. The second set would go a little better for Cameron, but the Texans would still prove to be too much. For most of the match, the two teams would trade points before the Texans would go on a 9-1 run to give them the 18-10 lead. Cameron would battle within 4 points, but the Texans took a timeout to regroup and would go on to win 25-20. And finally, the third set, the Texans would lead early and never give it up, as they would go on to win the set and the game. With this win, the Texans recorded a number of accolades. The 12-2 home record is tied for the second best in program history. It is the 16th sweep of the season, which is now 2 more than the previous record of 14. Haley Roberts and the senior crew led the team. Once again, Haley Roberts led the Texans in kills to 18 recorded. She also had 3 blocks and 5 digs. The senior crew played very well also. Rebecca Downhauer got 3 kills and was tied for second on the team with 3 blocks on the night. Defensive specialist Rebecca Schlorf had an ace, 6 digs, and 2 assists. And both Autumn Taylor and Abby Mackey were second only to Roberts in kills last night, both recording 10 each. The Texans will wrap up the regular season in New Mexico this weekend before going to the LSC Championship Tournament on November 19th. Men's basketball breezed past the Southwest Christian Eagles on their only exhibition game of the season. The Texans would use the first quarter to gain a double-digit lead, and they wouldn't look back after that. The Texans would go on to add to that lead in the second half, as they would end the first half of play with a 46-21 advantage. Texans would lead it by as much as 30 in the second half, and their lead would never fall below 22 points for the rest of the game. The Texans would end it 77-49. Standouts for the Texans include Josh Hawley, who had 19 points in the game, Raymond Jenkins, who had a double-double with 11 points, 11 rebounds. The Texan defense would stand out as well, as they had Southwest Christian to 28% from the floor, blocked 6 shots, and recorded 8 steals. The Texans will open up regular season today at 7 in Stephenville against Adams State. On to Texan basketball team. They faced a little bit more difficult opponent to close that exhibition play. The Texans took on the 6th-ranked University of Texas Longhorns in Austin. Things would start off very well for the Texans. They would actually end the first quarter as they led 22-21. Unfortunately, after that, the Division I powerhouse would take control for the rest of the game. After gaining the 1-point lead, the Longhorns would go on a 25-2 run as they would close out the half with a 50-27 advantage over the Texans. The Longhorns continued to roll as they would outscore the Texans 43-16 in the half to ultimately win the contest 93-43. Bailey Whiff led the Texans with 9 points throughout 3 quarters of play. The Texans will also open up regular season play today at 5 as they host Missouri S&T. And finally, both Tarleton cross-country teams finished their season last week in Denver, Colorado at the regional championship. The men's team qualified as a whole when they placed third at the LSC championship meet. The women's team were represented by Caitlin Huckabee and Esmeralda Fuentes, whose top 10 finishes at the LSC championship sent them to Denver also. The men's team finished in 18th place overall. They were led by Peyton Hennig, who finished 67th out of 193 runners. On the women's side, Caitlin Huckabee finished first for the two Texan runners and came in 37th out of 182 runners. Esmeralda Fuentes finished in 72nd place. After this meet, the two teams finished their season and unfortunately will not compete in the national championship meet. But the young teams will look to make it there in the future. Well, that's all for this week's Texan Sports Minute. Be sure to tune in next week for all the sports your hearts can handle. Signing off is Channing Flatt.